Okay, welcome everybody. I'll call the meeting to order and just like to welcome any of our public that's joining us today. And it's Ash Wednesday, the beginning of our Lenten journey. So we do have Henry will lead us in prayer today.
We have the prayer attached to the minutes. So you can all join me as we center ourselves. I'll begin in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Praise and glory be to you, our Creator, maker of all things possible. We come before you this morning with joy and worship, for you gave us another day, not by our might, but through your absolute grace and mercy. As we begin our deliberations today, we ask for your guidance and wisdom, and fill our hearts with love and compassion. May our work and the decisions we make at this table today and always lead us in the hope of forming young hearts and minds to come and know you and love you. Bless our parents, support staff, teachers, administrators, and trustees for their work. Keep us safe from this pandemic and any harm that may come our way. We bring this prayer to you through the intercession of our Blessed Mother Mary, as we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Saint Joseph, pray for us. All angels and saints, pray for us.
Pray for us.
Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. Our Treaty 6 land acknowledgement. We are a party to Treaty 6, and as such, we wish to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground for many Indigenous peoples. We recognize the diversity of First Nations who have at one time lived across the territory, as well as the presence of the Métis Nation. And there's no public forum. Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions? I'm wondering if the trustees would like just to follow up on the opening of Father Lacombe. Just to follow up, we can put it right at the end of the agenda. Sorry, not the groundbreaking of Father Lacombe.
Yeah.
So,
Madam Chair,
The opening.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, I was going to mention that in my superintendent's report. We could tackle it there if that pleases the board.
oh, okay, sure. We'll leave it there then. So otherwise there's no additions then?
No.
Okay, deletions, if we go to the committee reports, 5.1, there's no audit report. Finance, we do have something there. Labor,
Yes.
Student review, no. TBAC, no. Long range planning,
Yes.
policy. Is there any policy report? Trustee Spidich, no? Okay. ASBA, is there ACSTA report? Trustee F1?
Yes.
Okay. And 5.10 remains on. Okay. Could I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Chair, I see labor has no designation
Pardon me?
attached to it. 5.3 labor, there's no designation to it.
Okay, so we'll just add you to the,
Thank
okay,
you.
that's Henry. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Trustee Sirwa moves
That
to
the board approved the agenda as amended.
amended. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, 2.1, approval of the minutes from January 20th. Is there somebody who can make that motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I
Madam
can make
Chair,
that.
approve
Sorry,
that.
who is that? Henry? Trustee Efron moves?
That the
Okay,
board
trust-
approve the minutes of the regular meeting held January 20th, 2021 as circulated. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
All right.
Okay, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you. 3.0, our board goals and priorities are there. And we will be taking a closer look at this in our consultation process. That's next week. And we do have an item on the agenda as well. 4.1 are action items. Policy 24, Trustee Svidich.
Yeah, so that will be given second reading. Is that where we're at with that one?
It is second reading, yeah. Policy 24.
So the ward structures, this is a new policy that we had brought out and gone over once for first reading, and now we are asking that the board give second reading as presented. Did anyone have any other additions or deletions and friendly amendments to this policy since we had visited it last time?
I don't think so. Last meeting, we just had a comment about the 25% population of voting Catholics. But that wasn't something that needed to be in the policy, so.
Okay.
Okay, Trustee Svidich, are you ready to make that motion?
Yeah, so I'd like to make that motion to move policy 24, second reading
As presented?
as presented.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you. 4.2, this is our annual scholarship that we look at for Drayton Valley. Trustee Efron, are you willing to speak to?
You all have the background as is. If you've looked at it, this is something we've supported. This has been going on before I joined the board, 7 years now. And we used to give $1,000, and at Drayton Valley schools and trustees have supported this with fundraisers, cooking being the shelves, and also there's a variety of things that go into this community scholarship trust society. So if you all may, due to our economic situation, we used to give $1,000, but due to our economic situation, we gave $500. And I will ask again that if we are able to support with $500 at this time again.
Okay, are there any comments or questions about the scholarship? Everybody has the background information and have been able to read through it?
Okay. So that the board approve a donation to the Drayton Valley Community Scholarship Trust Society in the amount of $500, Madam Chair. I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Efron. If there are no comments or questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Committee reports. Finance. Trustee Tugwood?
Yes, as part of the committee report for finance, we met on January 10th. I mean, February 10th, not January. February 10th. And the first thing we talked about was the Drayton Valley Library. And just to let you know, there's still some discussion with the city on that. So probably Ed will be reporting on that when that's finished. Is there anything, Ed, to add to that about Drayton Valley Library? Or
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. No, there's nothing else to add at this time.
Okay, thank you. The next thing, the financial reporting profile, it was late, I believe, coming, and so we will be presenting that in March after we get it from, that was the provincial, the financial reporting profile issued by the division, to the division from the province of Alberta. It's been delayed. So a review of the profile and the presentation to the board will be in March. The last thing is the budget development principles. I don't know if you want to put this up on screen. You probably have it, Ed, or should I just read it? I'm fine with just reading it.
I can put that up.
Or you can see it on your, yeah, we could put it out, and then there's only one really change in it. Excuse me.
And I'll see if I can make that a little bigger for you.
Okay.
That a little easier to see now?
Yeah, I can see it okay. So the budget development principles. So everything here you can see in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the number 6 bullet. The school administration will develop plans consistent with the education plan. And it used to say with division goals. So we put in education plan there for programs and services in consultation with staff, parents, and students where appropriate, and the Catholic community. Other things are the same. We've added, think of the division as a whole. So this is mainly for trustees, so they're not just thinking about their particular spot, but the division as a whole is what we need to be thinking about as trustees. So I would like to pretend the motion that the board approve the 2021-2022 budget development principles has presented. I don't know if there's any discussion on that, but.
Does anybody have any questions? Sorry, I can't see my whole screen here.
You have to move your.
Yeah, I can see now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I do have one question. So think of the division as a whole, and I know where that's coming from, and I guess I think of equity among the communities or among the different schools and communities. So I'm wondering if that, like what are the highlighted pieces for? Are those just new or added or?
I was added and changed. So the highlighted piece, the education plan, it used to read the division goals. So we changed it to the education plan. And speaking of the division as a whole, I believe that was put in, or was it part of it for the last few years, Ed, or that was just, we talked about it at the meeting.
Last year was one of 4 statements that was for identifying fiscal priorities, because we were very, very tight for 1920, and the uncertainties around the new funding framework. The superintendent asked for kind of a priority listing in terms of what the board wanted administration to think in terms of fiscal policy for this current year. And so the committee felt it was an important statement that they wanted to carry forward onwards for next year as well, to think of the division as a whole.
Does that answer your question, Michelle?
Yeah, I was just like, I recall it being there before, but I was just wondering why it was highlighted. And then I just wonder if there could be wording that could kind of express that, division as a whole, around equity, because that's definitely what we strive for this past year was equity in each of our, at each of our schools, right, for funding, because so I'm just wondering if that's something that.
But as far as the budget development principle, we do want to think of the division as a whole, but you'd like to add some wording to that.
Well, I'm just wondering, just to clarify, like when we're thinking of the division as a whole, we're thinking of equity. I'm just wondering if we need, wording to include that, or what do trustees think?
Chair, if I may.
Sure, go
I
ahead,
see-
Trustee Efron.
I see where you're going with this. If we will be adding anything of equity, we wouldn't be thinking of the division as a whole, because we know the landscape and the equity around the board. We know some jurisdictions or some communities, at the end of the day, just like our school generated funds, some have, right, some of those in excess and others don't. But if we're looking at the budgeting principles, that is where we can control, and we're thinking of the division as a whole, that stays in our purview as to when we are looking at everything from that perspective into that equity, right? But if we want to add the equity into it, some of those equities that we couldn't control, like the school generated funds and all of that, wouldn't align properly in our sandbox.
Yeah, I agree
Okay,
with you.
so the statement, think of the division as a whole.
Yes.
It still is, the goal there still is to provide equity
Equity, exactly. And that is the equity we control.
that
right?
we control. Yeah.
That is the budgeting we control. So we're thinking about that. But if we want to go into the minutia of it to spread it, then we cannot control that, simply because some communities can generate, right, more than the others, and that is what they can control. But this is in our sandbox to control.
Right.
And again, it's specific to trustees to be mindful and to always think of the division as a whole.
Right.
Okay.
With the developing the budget, that we have to think of it as a whole, what's best for everyone. So do you want anything added to that, Michelle? Are you okay with that line?
No, I just wanted to, I was just clarifying that that's still the intent. Yeah. Okay, so Donna, you're making a motion to accept the principles?
Yeah, that the board approve the 2021-2022 budget development principles as presented. That's the motion.
Okay. And okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, labor. Trustee Efron?
As we do know, still there's ongoing discussion and as to local matters and central matters. There will be one more meeting between TIBA and ATA prior to the budget being tabled. So I will leave it as such. I will add more when we go into the in-camera on 6.1. So just for information that they are trying to meet one more time before the budget is tabled.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
5.6, long-range planning. Trustee Sirwa?
Yes, so we had our long-range plan meeting on January the 28th. And now we're looking at a new approach for our high school in Beaumont. And the committee reviewed the parent feedback. We had lots of letters from parents. And Charlie presented the committee with scenarios and data showing what it would be like to add the high school to Mother DeVille, as well as reconfigure with St. Andre. And the committee is in support of bringing this in, the new demographics for discussion. And we would I'm asking that for the approval of the board to move forward with our new plan.
Okay, so we will be discussing that further under 7.6.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Sirwa. Alberta School Boards Association report. So we do have some items. On my report, I've highlighted the items that we need to talk about. So item number 2, action items from Zone 2-3 event. So the first item, start having ECS funding. So that's our motion, and we will be bringing that back this Friday. And boards had, or ASB reps had time to go back to their boards and talk to their boards about it. But I expect that this is just going to be particular to more growth areas. I'm not sure, but, and there have been some figures that that are out there, like I guess for unaccounted students, about 15,000 students did not register. That's a figure that's kind of out there right now, and perhaps 9,000 of them may be ECS students that just didn't register this past year, and now they're going to be looking to register this fall. But again, the dilemma is if they register and they're age 6, they don't qualify for any funding, so then they have to be put into grade 1. So these parents are making a choice, and they're asking to be experience ECS for their first year of school. So we will be, Charlie, I'm just wondering, do we have any numbers on how many students in our division are, or how many parents are requesting this of our division? Because I know that
Not at this
actually,
time.
like at Father Leduc, they opened up their registration and they had 60 registrations within an hour or something. I guess it was just crazy. So anyhow, just wondering if we actually do have some numbers.
We don't have any of those numbers.
Can we, Madam Chair, if I may ask, maybe next month, can we have just a rough of what's going on within the division in that registration frame, please? Mr. Bouchard.
Okay, so
I'm waiting to see if that's the will of the board. Sorry, Trustee F1. I heard your suggestion, but then that
yeah,
has
so
to be
I
discussed.
guess
Thank you.
I guess what we could, if you're able to provide those numbers by next month, how many ECS students we are getting requesting that to go into ECS if they are 6 years of age.
Yeah.
I can ask our administrators for that, but
Yeah,
if
please.
I'm not sure how many are asking to go into kindergarten.
Okay.
I can let you know how many. Well, they may be registering them for grade 1, so I'll have to speak to the admin and see what I can get for you. But
Yeah.
it is early in the process. You have to understand that
Yeah.
we don't get registrations. They're not complete by far at this time. They go right through to August.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing though is that you want to know how many 6-year-olds have not been in kindergarten, correct?
Well, how many are requesting to register in kindergarten? So your request, because we took this to Zone 2-3, so your request came out of an anticipation of our division experiencing this, right? Yeah.
Yes, we had heard about it from some schools, correct?
Okay.
It may be that some parents don't realize that there's any choice. They think they have to go to grade 1, so they just register them to grade 1. So that
But
may
if they
be that
are
we don't know.
requesting, yeah, if they are requesting ECS, then that is a problem because there's no funding. So, and are we going to, if we accommodate one, we have to accommodate them all.
Right.
So,
Right.
So anyhow, that is Zone 2-3 reps. They did go back to their board, and we will have the discussion on Friday again about what school divisions are experiencing. So we'll see how that works, and then ASBA will advocate if there is a big need for it.
Yeah.
The second item.
Thank you.
Charlie, I'm just wondering if you're able to touch on this. So there was a request a possible policy statement coming forward on funding that should follow a high needs student. And we had a brief conversation about this, and it would be hard for funding to follow a high needs student if they started in one division and moved on to another division. Now, there was some talk at the zone level of different school divisions experiencing like a very high, a high cost if a student did transfer midway through the year. So just wondering if you can touch on that.
So as I understand the request is some school divisions are asking if funding for a high needs student could follow that student after September 30th. So there is no designated funding for high needs students in the funding framework. So that's the first problem with that suggestion. What would the amount be, as an example? So as school divisions, we get a grant funding to meet the needs of all students. So we determine how we distribute that in the division, and that's left to each division's own. So that's problematic. We have never in my time in education in Alberta moved money from one division to another for these students after September 30th. It's kind of understood, kind of in the education circle, that you'll gain some, you'll lose some, that it works out in the end. As a division, we have set aside a contingency in our division, 150,000, that we have set up for after September 30th to deal with these needs. Students who were not originally in that kind of funding that we set up. So if we get a student that moves into our division whose needs need to be met, we take it out of that money. And if we needed more, we would have to take it out of, we'd overspend on that budget because those needs would need to be met. So the other thing too is when we have a student with needs, high needs, we'll often cluster those kids. So we might put two of those kids together with an EA as an example. So what happens if one of those two leaves the division? Are we giving half of that money for the EA and now we're left with half funded EA? It's just not practical. It's not the way we've always done business in Alberta, and it would be a nightmare to try to set that up. So I think administration would not speak in favor of that kind of a proposal. It just doesn't make sense practically.
Okay, that's good to know. So that will be our conversation on Friday then. And then Blackgold Schools, they're experiencing extra costs, or I guess they want to know if other school divisions are experiencing increased costs regarding insurance. But I think we had a brief conversation about this with Ed. Those that stayed in ASB or ARMEC, they're experiencing a different rate of insurance compared to what we're experiencing. But we possibly could experience some increases with our busing contracts, but we really won't see that this month or maybe next month. I'm not sure if Charlie or Ed can touch on that.
Well, our contracts for our smaller contractors are up August 31st of this year. So we're going into the process of renewing those contracts. And those are contractors with maybe one to up to maybe 3 or 4 routes with us. Our largest contractor with the majority of our routes renewed last year. So, but for many of our contractors, as we were switching over from the ASB model, which had rates included for contract bus operators, and moving to Foster Park as our broker, we also reached out to them to see how many of them would be impacted. And like I said, our largest single carrier had their own insurance. They were not part of the ASB program with insurance. So, and we're finding that with a few of our other smaller ones that they had alternate insurance already established. They weren't through the ASB program. So the impacts, there's an industry impact, and then there's the switch over to a different provider. And I think there's an industry that's happening, kind of industry increase that's happening throughout. And certainly for the quote that was provided to our contractors from Foster Park, it was significantly higher than what they had under ASB. But again, how that's going to play out in terms of our contracts, we won't know until we're starting to enter into those discussions on the renewals for next year. So we won't see any impacts until next year's, and we see what rates look like with our contractors.
Right. Okay. So it's a little early to tell. Okay. Thank you. And do we have health and wellness best practices that we would be willing to share from our admin? You know what? We can just leave this one, and then if there is a best practice or something that admin wants to share, we can present it to our zone. So we can leave that for now, or
Madam Chair, that's, I guess I would ask for some direction. I'm not sure what you're looking for. That's a pretty wide topic and question that you just posed. What specifically is being sought?
Well, I think it's just if we have an initiative or something innovative that we've started or we've come up with that we want to share. Some divisions at Zone 2-3, they are sharing as PD, their health and wellness plan or initiative, and or resources like Fort McMurray Catholic. They have quite a huge resource on their website for health and wellness. So they kind of highlighted that. That was last year, yeah, still. But anyhow, so they're just putting that out to boards. If there's something in particular that we would be interested in sharing, a best practice or initiative. Staff can let me know, and we can bring it to our zone meeting. It's just a way to share a resource, you know, or initiative.
Yeah, without speaking for, you know, either Sean or Lori, I wouldn't suggest that we would have anything to suggest.
Okay, thank you. And then zone languages, they're looking for some feedback on French immersion. So percentage of students enrolled, are there any barriers to French immersion? Like we are growing it here in Leduc. Any learning difficulties or best practices to share? So again, this is something that if admin would be willing just to put a bit of information together, and I can take it back to the zone. Or do you need more details?
Madam Chair, I'm not sure what you're seeking.
Okay, so the zone
more.
languages, yeah, the zone languages committee, they're looking for some feedback on French immersion programs. So just wondering if our division can provide anything. We do have, we are growing the French immersion program in Leduc, and just wondering if we have any barriers in growing that program and how many students we do have enrolled in any of our communities. And do we have any best practices to share? I think one of the concerns that we did have in the past was the hiring of French immersion teachers.
That hasn't been a challenge for us.
Yeah,
I find,
yeah.
I'm wondering if you have anything in writing that you could provide administration, because it's so broad. If we go to staff asking for that, best practices in French immersion, I mean, you could write a book on that. I'm not sure exactly what the zone is looking for. Lori, I don't know if you have any comment, but this is quite nebulous, and I'm struggling to kind of be able to provide some direction for our administrators.
I'll go back to the Zone 2-3 minutes, and I'll just pull out the questions and send them to you, if that would be okay, Charlie.
Thank you.
And then if there's anything that can be answered, I can take it back to the zone. Thank you. So I do have some comments in the zone 2-3 minutes. Sorry, I'm just going to put my speaker on mute for a moment. I do have some background noise. Sorry about that. Okay, so there were a couple of presentations at our zone meeting, and one was on director communication and social etiquette. So I'm wondering if trustees had time to go through those minutes and view those two presentations. And if you would like an ASBA director to actually give a communication presentation, or do we need a social etiquette presentation? So these are just information items that I want to bring to your attention. So in regards to the ASBA communication, I just wanted to highlight for trustees that some of the highlights in that presentation was to ensure directors are serving the entire ASBA, and to build trust and transparency. And ASBA is working for all member boards, so there's really a effort to make sure that there's transparency and trust. Anybody can observe an ASBA director meeting, so you're welcome. But the board of directors, they just need they need to make sure that they know that you want to come on, so they need a heads up. But anybody can go and view a meeting. Communication and media is always tested to make sure that it's going to be received well in the public eye and with the member boards. So that's a really important piece that they do as staff. There's good communication to and from zone chairs and board chairs. So that has been a really good initiative, just really bringing in board chairs to be part of more communication events or conversation pieces, like at least twice a year. Board chairs have been brought in to have meetings with the ASBA. So again, just wondering if trustees had time to go through that and if they found it useful, and if there were any questions. It is one of my jobs as board chair is to bring those items to our board and make sure that trustees understand the work of ASBA at that level, and that there is good communication, and trustees feel confident in the work of ASBA, because they are really working hard for all member boards. So just wondering if anybody has any comments or questions.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
to comment on that and to comment on it pretty much when I read through it, exactly like you're saying, ASBA is redefining the role of the directors, right? That when you have an aspiration and you want to be a director, you must come with the goal of being a director for all, simply because they want that to be the mandate going forward. And I do applaud them for doing that. That is a big turnaround for what has been happening before, and now they want to change that image. So it's a big ask, and it's something that is becoming the forefront. So when you have an aspiring, or you are aspiring to be a director, you should be ready to communicate for all, not just half a board. Yeah, so that's the way I understood that direction or that communication plan. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other comments, Trustee Tugwood?
I just, I was at that board meeting and Katie Campbell did an excellent presentation, I thought, on social media protocols. And she would be willing to come out and do it. She went into it a lot deeper than we had done before. And it was really, it gave lots to think about as far as, and also with the election coming up too. There was lots of things that we should and shouldn't do as far as social media. I thought that was very good. So
Yes, there was, and a lot of it is common sense, you know, and learning to be aware of being baited, you know, into a conversation that, you know, going down a deep hole.
A deep hole, yes, and
So
not to get in an argument on Facebook.
Yeah. So the social media etiquette, I thought maybe that's something that we could add to our elections, you know, kind of discussion and trustee orientation piece as well. And
Agreed.
yeah.
Should be on there for sure.
So we are looking at our timeline and election kind of process next month. So if we could just add on social media etiquette to that, if that would be okay, Charlie. Okay. And we can use that resource from ASBA, and I'm sure Caitlin has lots of advice for us too. Okay, thank you. The other item, the email from the Rural Caucus. Just wondering, in Wendy's report there, she talked about the red tape in reporting. Just wondering if we're still experiencing that. I don't really know if that's improved but it was a concern that so much of the reporting that we do and admin would be experiencing this. Is there still an issue with red tape, or have things gotten better or worse, I guess? Any comments from admin? No? Okay, so that's not something that we're experiencing. Also, just to keep in mind, best practices for helping students and families. What are some of our challenges? So obviously there's going to be a call out for the spring meeting, and the Rural Caucus is going to be looking at feedback from boards for this. So just to keep this in mind, some of the challenges because some of these things we see right in the school, right? Challenges that families are having. And it is a concern of the minister. So and then item number 4, the Virtual Leadership Academy. So I'd asked Trustee Tugwood and Trustee Sirois to report on this because they did attend. So I'm just wondering if Trustee Sirois, you'd like to start?
Sure. We attended the Advocacy Leadership Academy virtually, of course. I think there was close to 200 people in attendance. And we listened to fantastic speakers, really. Mm-hmm. And we received a comprehensive guide for trustees for election and campaign information. Overall, it was an excellent seminar, and I truly enjoyed it. Donna, probably have some other comments.
I was going to comment on the pandemic recovery part, and I thought it was an excellent. I'm so glad that I attended. I feel like I learned so much about the election and what to do and not do, and then the information that was sent out by Vivian, that's excellent information. The pandemic recovery, it was Denton's Carmen McNary, who's a tax lawyer, and he was talking about advocacy during these difficult times of disruption, he called it. So first he went over the early lessons. So things that we learned, that contingency planning is a must, that technology solutions are critical. We would all agree. Virtual delivery and meetings and remote solutions generally, they're here to stay. Even if the pandemic, we're going to still be doing some things this way. We learned that you have to identify and understand the risks, and the pandemic act rapidly. Everything happened fast, decisively and confidently. And as far as in education, we learned that it's exhausting to be on screens all day, not only for the teachers, but also for the students and the parents. When you've got 3 kids at home and you're working at home and your husband's working at home, it's exhausting. That this is not just remote learning, it's learning during a pandemic. And that also many students have been left behind. And this could be for many reasons, maybe lack of access to appropriate bandwidth for our rural students, or devices, or just the lack of school readiness. But other students have been able to accelerate, maybe because their parents are gung-ho and behind them and pushing them. Also, we learned that introverts do far better with this type of learning than extroverts. Extroverts find it very hard to be missing that people contact. So what's next as far as advocacy? Well, we don't have a crystal ball, as he was saying, so we don't know. Will things go back to the office, to schools? Will we return to big in-person events? We don't know. Will we transition to remote technologies permanently? What do we know? We know that we're going to experience pushback from the public in major decisions. And we've seen that happening more so during this pandemic through social media and through public protests. We do know that budgets will be different and will never be the same, as we actually have no concept of the wealth that has evaporated in businesses, in governments, in municipalities, school boards, as well as our own personal finances. And our province right now, Alberta, is facing extreme economic challenges. This is due to the price drop in oil and gas and, of course, pipeline issues. We do know that there is and will be enormous pressure on businesses, governments, and school boards. So you have to remember that the next 4 years will be so different than the last 4. And COVID changed everything for all of us, especially for our governments. There's been this massive shift of influence and power to Ottawa, to the federal government from the provincial government, as in reality, the federal government is better and more powerful position than Alberta right now. Right now, Alberta has got lots of problems. That can mean a drop in budget to boards, healthcare, and we have to advocate when we're doing our advocacy that schools are an investment. They're an investment in our future, an investment in our students, investment in our province, that we are very important. We may see changes, and he's saying it's going to be tough. Sales tax could actually happen. There could be user fees, income tax increases, sin taxes, etc. And our hope is that interest rates do not go up. The possible approaches to advocacy, whether it's the board to the government or ASBA to the government on policy planning and curriculum budgets, we have to prepare to be proactive and confirm our issues. And it's really important, as we were saying before with ASBA, that we act as one voice. Together we are stronger. We have to find allies and focus on the opportunities that are to come. We have to lever what is working and try to find solutions within the government framework. Most important, we have to offer win-win priorities. In other words, help them help us. And we have to make it easy for them to say yes. So that's about it. But remember, this will be a long time. And he was saying a little, well, I don't know if it's encouragement, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. So that was the information. It was a really good presentation and lots to think about.
Yeah, it was. I found that particular presentation very sobering.
It was.
Like it was very, it's going to be a very tough road going forward.
Yeah. And we have to face the realities of what Alberta government is going through right now. Yeah. And we deal with the government no matter what party it is.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who would be in power, right? It's globally. It's across the country what governments are going to be dealing with. So
that's right.
And to add on,
the one thing that he did say was it was just so important, and it everything you said was really important. But you know, when we talk about pandemic recovery, education is absolutely necessary for the recovery of Alberta. So
Yeah.
we have to keep it a priority and advocate with that kind of word, you know, with that kind of focus, I guess, that it's
Mhm.
we are about the recovery, you know, going forward.
We are an investment, a
Yeah.
good, strong investment that will help our economy in the future.
And Madam Chair, just to emphasize again, like he said, when we come into the table to advocate, we bring in a solution to the table, alternatives to the table. That's when government listens and take attention or pay attention to what we are discussing, simply because in this crisis, financially, alternatives makes sense when you are coming to advocate, simply because the money isn't there and we have to be careful which of the battles we pick.
Yeah.
We have to make it easy for them to say yes, offer a win-win solutions, not just ask for with our hand out. Have some win-win solutions that we can offer.
Yeah, we have to be innovative.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was well worth the day.
Yeah, it was excellent. Very good expertise, and Charlie attended as well, so he was a part of it. The Chad Rogers presentation.
Madam
Trustee
Chair,
Eflin?
just give me 1 second, please. Somebody is
Sure.
at my door.
Oh.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'll be back. Just go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the Chad Rogers presentation, everybody should have received that presentation. It's about an hour long, and it's an excellent video presentation. So if you did not receive it, just let me know and I'll make sure and forward it to you.
It did give lots of good information for the election. And so
I know it got got everyone excited to start their process. And the other thing that I really got out of it, it's just really important to promote elections and promote trusteeship. And we're going to be able to get more resources out of our coffee conversations that are happening at the zone level. So the next one, it is listed there.
When is it?
It's March 9th. So the notice will be going out shortly. The next item that I'll talk about is the strategic planning session that I went to. So this was a presentation. The facilitators were two people from Myers Norris Penny, and they were very good governance expertise in their area. So usually what happens at the spring ASBA meeting, we get a recap of the ASBA. Oh, just a minute. Sorry. We get a recap of the ASBA strategic plan and where we are at with it. So the priorities that we reviewed to empower school boards to govern in support of diverse educational needs of all students, to promote the value and credibility of member boards in the ASBA, to have influence in all decisions related to education in Alberta, and to operate in a fiscally sound manner. So those priorities we all got to have feedback on and to give our what we thought would be effective, and if we're getting there, if we're on the right track. So ASBA, they'll take all that feedback and they will present it at the spring meeting, and just with tweaks and make sure that we're all on the right path, and give a presentation on that. Sorry, it's so noisy at my house. I'm just going to mute my microphone for a minute. Okay, and I think that's about it. Just a reminder that the Zone 2-3 meeting is this Friday. So anybody who wants to attend is welcome to. And there will be a governance review at on Friday as well. And I think that's everything. Uh, 5.9, Trustee F1 is back. So if you have a comment on ACSTA, Trustee F1.
Yes, Madam Chair. So we met Thursday and Friday last week. Do the executive directors, there was a survey that had happened on her just to review what she's done since she was hired. So we did that, putting some tweaks here and there just to guide her. And you all know pretty much ACSTA, there's a new shift to reimagine ourselves. And again, some of all of this is stemming from the economical aspect of everything that is going on, and how do we work aligning very well with ASBA, again, so then that there's no duplications of work over there. And if you could remember as well, last month, I did report on how do we internally ourselves between GRACE, CCSTA, and ACSTA, making sure we are aligning our work and there are no duplications in there. So bringing to your attention this time, ACSTA is looking at putting together 5 marks of a Catholic trustee. What are the 5 marks that you need to see in a Catholic trustee? They want to create a document in that regard. So they are asking for writers who would like to be part of this. So if any of you is interested, let me know and I can send, because they want to put it all together between now and the end of the year so that it becomes a living document for aspiring trustees. Planning is ongoing for the blueprint and SPICE, and that will be virtual. So that planning just started as well. And we're looking at April 30th or 4th and 14th. Here, the fully alive document that came out last, there's some confusion around it. It is not a curriculum. It is a resource. So trying to make it clear to trustees that it's going around in some circles that the Catholics are writing their own curriculum. No, it is a resource to support curriculum. And maybe Mr. Bouchard could add more on that. So additionally, when we hired the Catholic Curriculum Advisory Committee, there was a person that was hired to lead that. These have created a way to change the name to become Resource Advisory, right? Better Catholic Education Resource Advisory Committee. So the word curriculum is taken out of it to stop some of these confusions. So Catholic Dimension, this is our own paper. So they are asking for the quarterly paper. They are encouraging divisions to send in articles. They need articles so we can continue to publish some of these, to publish the paper quarterly. Election package, stay tuned. There's a package coming up that is all prep with the various links and sites to support Catholic trustees, just as ASBA has put in out last month. So this will be again an additional and the Catholic perspective. So stay tuned, that will be coming. That's most of the deliberations. We got a speaker, the CEO for Covenant Health, who gave us a talk to parallel what had happened in the health sector compared to what is happening now in school boards. They are not apples to apples, but there are good practices that could be taken away from each environment. Just like we operating as Catholic entities, we have our marks and we have our strengths, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be open to working together with government, with ASBA, to make sure that we are relevant in the work we do because we have something to offer. And he said that's the struggle they went through as Catholic hospitals, with challenges when it comes to, you name it, euthanasia and all of that. So at the end of the day, we have to be mindful that we need to work together and find common solutions to some of these challenges. That's all for me, I believe. Any questions?
Yes, Henry.
Trustee Sirwa?
Yes. Many people have shared with me how upset and angered and disappointed they are with this Fully Alive.
Okay.
And some of the parents called the teacher and they said, well, if you don't want your child in it, you just don't attend, right? But if you've read it all over, I don't think it's good at all.
Okay.
And you're saying that the Catholic person initiated all this and wrote it?
Yes. So Fully Alive, it's a resource. Maybe, Mr. Bouchard, do you have something to add on to that? It's not a curriculum, it's a resource. So I'll defer to him because CCSTA was there as well, and that's part of their support. Thank you.
So Trustee Sirrod, just as a point of clarification, Fully Alive is a Pearson resource. It is approved by the Catholic Bishops of Canada.
Right.
It follows the Catholic teachings. So I'm not sure, you'd have to be more specific with any concerns about it, but it is meant to accompany either religious studies or health and wellness curriculum. Can be used in either. Parents can opt their kids out. They cannot do that unless it is dealing with the human sexuality component, which is Unit 3 in the program.
Yeah.
But all other components are not something that's families would be able to opt out of. So I'm not sure exactly what you're fielding, but I will remind trustees that Claire is giving a 15-minute presentation at the March board meeting regarding Fully Alive. So there definitely can be some Q&A at that time as well.
Yes, Charlie, I was referring to the sexuality portion. So, okay.
Trustee Tugwood?
I also heard some negative aspects as far as the pictures that are in it, that it really represents, there were, in our school, the faces are not all white faces with mums and dads that all live in this nice little home. There's more brown faces. There are, and it's not represented, I don't think, in the pictures and so on. And also families represent so many different varieties. They could be living with grandparents or aunts and uncles. I mean, we have a lot of students from the Philippines that sometimes they come here and they live with aunts and uncles, and some are single parent families, and the families represent so many different things that they felt that it really didn't represent Canada or Alberta in 2021. It was more what we wished it was way back in when it was written in 2009, and it came out in Ontario in 2013. So it isn't real new. It's fairly dated, I guess I could say. So yeah, I've heard some negative too.
Yeah. So are there other resources that teachers would be going to as well, rather than just this one, Charlie?
So again, I'll remind trustees that we take our direction on this from the bishops. So this is the approved resource. Now, teachers are free to use all kinds of resources, and they do. They don't just limit themselves to this one, but this is the resource that's being endorsed by the bishops of Alberta and the Catholic bishops of Canada. So I will make it clear that this is not related to the new curriculum position. That person is there as a resource, but she did not create this resource. I want to be clear about that. This is a Pearson resource that is promoted again by the bishops, but it's not the sole resources that teachers would use.
So Charlie, are you saying they do not have to use parts of this? They can use parts and not other parts?
That is correct. However, we do find that there is good alignment with this book, with this resource and the curriculum. And it is one of the few resources that does portray the Catholic position on these things. When we talk about faith-infused curriculum, that's the purpose of this resource, is to do that. So we know that that is a challenge for teachers to infuse the curriculum with our faith. So this resource is in good alignment for that.
Okay, so just a reminder that we are having a presentation from Claire on this next month, so we can have a good discussion at that time too. So, but as Charlie has said, it is an approved resource by the Catholic bishops of Canada. So, and maybe with all the discussion there'll be some updating recommendations that come out of the discussions. Trustee Afon, anything else?
No, just to say thank you to Mr. Bouchard. And like you've alluded to some of these comments, it's noted by me and will be discussed again next time Claire gives, so then we can send in our, but again, this is nationwide now, that a lot of, and it just points to our Catholic teachings and our Catholic perspectives in our secular world. So yes, for sure, not all will accept it, but we know it's been approved and it's aligned well with our. So again, just to say that's it from me.
Okay.
There are no any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And nice to hear that Blueprints and Spice are going to be
virtual
happening. Yeah. Okay, 5.10 Star Catholic School Council Handbook. So I did reach out to the two school council members that are on this committee, and they do want to see it through and finish the book. So myself and Trustee Bannard were on the committee. I'm willing to stay on it. So we will have to have a replacement, or we don't have to. It's an option to have a replacement for Trustee Bannard, but just wondering how trustees feel about moving forward and for admin to have time to complete this with us, I guess. I think the two people that we have like on the committee, they're very good at what they do. They're very well versed in school council and what needs to be done, and they will work hard on the book to finish it up. And I can be there as a trustee to make sure that it continues on and gets done. I'm trying to remember, Lori, how much is done or where we're at with it, and how your time is if we were going to commit to finishing it.
Okay, Board Chair Lemaire, I believe we're about halfway through. I'd have to look back through the document. We had basically chunked out the information and everybody was supposed to work on their portion. Mm-hmm. My time, I guess we would have to move into March to be able to get started, or to, I guess, restart. But yes, we would be able to do that for sure.
Okay. So at this point, I'm willing to be the trustee on the committee with the our two parent council people. So I'd be willing to continue on to that. I don't know if anybody else wants to come on, but I think at this point, I would be fine just to work with the two parent volunteers that we have and just continue on. We're halfway done. And I think we have two hard workers on the committee and myself that could work on it. So just wondering, looking for some feedback from trustees. Trustee Tugwood?
I was just going to say it's kind of hard to jump in at this point for if you haven't had anything to do with it. But if you did need like an alternative person in case you can't make it, I would be willing, but I feel like I don't know enough. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if trustees would be willing to proof the book. You know, once the three of us, we get it going and you could actually proof it with your school council. You know, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
give it to your school council for proofing, and then we tweak it that way, and we keep the project going and finish it up this year.
Certainly, I would agree to do that.
Yes, Madam. Yeah, Madam Chair, I will support that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
I will-
excellent. So we'll
I
plan.
will too.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
And thanks, Michelle, for continuing on with it.
Okay. Okay, so we will continue. I'll advise the two volunteers that we have so far, and I will ask trustees to proof it with their school council when the time comes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have 15 minutes, so we can probably go through item number 6 for in camera and then take lunch. So if I was going to guess, we can get through item number 6 and come back for 1:45. And the in-camera session will be trustees, Charlie and Ed.
Yeah. And
So if that's okay, so we'll go in camera. So I need somebody to move us in camera, please.
Madam Chair, just 1 second. That's my in camera. And Sean, we will, yeah, everybody else can.
Okay, so
including,
we need Charlie, Ed, and Sean to stay on for at least 6.1, correct?
yes.
Madam Chair, you'd said 1:45. Did you mean 12:45?
Sorry, 12:45, come back for after lunch, yeah. Sorry.
12:45.
Okay, thank you. So
And Dan,
trustee Efron, are you moving us in camera?
yes, and Dan can be off because it's a bargaining issue.
Yes.
Yeah, trustee
Yes, 6.1, you'll have to recuse yourself,
Okay.
trustee Spidich.
Okay.
But we'll call you back on for the remainder. Okay,
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor of moving in camera?
Aye.
Okay, and that's carried unanimously.
Okay. Okie dokie.